Hello and welcome to the Love Connection Planning Edition, where planners look for a match. We'll meet several eligible options. Which one will they pick? Which one will our audience pick? Today on Love Connection, you'll find out and hear everything that happened on their dates. And now, here to tell us more is our host, Tom Peff.
What, Zach? No applause? Thanks, guys, and welcome to the Love Connection. You'll have to excuse the grainy photo there. A bit of nostalgia for those of us that remember the purple couches and tell-all interviews of Chuck Woolery. And for those of you millennials out there who have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about right now, Love Connection was a game show in the 80s, sort of an ancestor to The Bachelor and many others that have followed, where candidates would get matched up with dates. We've got, unfortunately, we sprung the budget for Steph Curry and the chefs yesterday. We couldn't get Chuck Woolery out of retirement to host this, so I'll be doing my best impression. To be honest, we actually have a slight wrinkle in this reboot, the Love Connection Planning Edition, but we'll be fairly faithful in terms of format. We have our Bachelorette, our planner there, and we're going to match her up with the planning applications that we think will be the best fit for her. While I'm hopeful that this will be a few laughs and you guys will have a good time and a couple of blushes, it's not all fun and games and make-believe. Our Bachelorette today is going to be talking about a true romance and all the nitty-gritty that goes with her actual deployment, our internal deployment here at Workday of several planning applications. So buckle up because between the blushes and the double entendres, which I promise you there will be several, you should be able to pick up a few planning do's and don'ts. Okay. But with that, we're going to get into the rules of the game here. And for those of you that are familiar with the Love Connections format, again, pretty faithful here. So first up, we'll meet our planner. Then we'll be introduced to several eligible matches. We'll then let her pick, and we'll let you, the audience, pick as well. Then we'll hear about all the date and everything that happened, and hopefully from there on, kind of happily ever after. Before we get into that, a quick safe harbor statement. So software development roadmaps, much like love, are subject to change and uncertainty. And we encourage you, to the extent that you are making purchasing decisions or picking lifelong matches, do so based on the features and the candidate as they exist today, and not what they might be in the future or what you think, hope, would, should, could mold them into at some point later on. So true words never spoken. Now, folks out there, it's actually quite important these days to get this match just right. As we know, many organizations are dealing with navigating what's a very rapidly changing world and are needing to make difficult choices. I think planning has certainly come to the forefront for a lot of organizations as they wrestle with sort of literally walking the line on tough choices. So, when demand falls off a cliff, and revenue gets cut to zero in some situations. What does that mean for my covenants, cash flow? Can I make payroll? And now, some of the changes on the workforce side as well, not just the remote situation, but now dealing with some of the labor squeeze and inflationary pressures of the Great Resignation. How do we continue to meet obligations and demand with limited capacity? So super important to get that right. And in addition, not just within the Office of Finance and FP&A and corporate planning, but rather the recognition that planning extends down into the operational reaches of the business. In fact, Gartner has identified that by 2024, 70% of all financial planning projects will become extended planning analysis, XP&A. And what that means is they'll delve into some of the operational details around workforce and sales and marketing operations, supply, demand, et cetera, et cetera. So it's super important now more than ever to involve those parts of the organization in those plans as well. And that's kind of where our game today is going to focus. So without further ado, let's meet our planner, Zach.
Meet Ellie. She manages the Planning Center of Excellence for Workday, helping stakeholders around the organization to evaluate and implement planning models. She's had one failed marriage with Anaplan and an on again, off again relationship with Excel, but thinks they've turned a corner and is optimistic about the future.
Ellie, welcome to the Love Connection. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, first off, that failed marriage. What kind of happened there?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I am Ellie, and I oversee our Adaptive Planning Center of Excellence here at Workday. Our COE objective is to enable enterprise-wide connected planning with focuses on data integrity and architecture while we provide thought leadership and expertise to accelerate overall business self-sufficiencies. As you've all mentioned, we were previously in a bad relationship with Anaplan and a, on again, off again love relationship with Excel workbooks. And it's something that, it was very important for us to look for something that will provide us with the flexibilities in our overall forecasting and driving additional scenarios that provides us with a level of granularity and truly reporting capabilities.
Okay, so some hot buttons to look out for as we meet our candidates, some reporting. Anything else in particular that you're looking for with this with new love here?
Definitely, as you mentioned, aligning with the XP&A capabilities, something that allows us to cover the various different aspects of running our business.
All right. Without further ado, let's meet some of our eligible bachelors here.
Meet James with financial planning. James claims to have a bit of a reputation for rescuing budgeters in distress. And when it's time to get serious, he's got a couple of moves that'll never fail.
Oh, boy.
Good afternoon. I'm James Wentworth Meyer III. You can call me James. Now, when it comes to planning, my reputation for satisfying budgeters often precedes me. If you've picked up a Gartner report in the last 5 years, you've probably noticed me up there in the upper right-hand corner, innovating, executing. Now, I'm not one to brag. I'll leave that to my thousands of users. But there's a certain confidence that comes with rescuing as many distressed planners from Excel hell as I have. What your planners expect from me? Well, in a word, the best. The finest wines. Flexible, driver-based models, rolling forecasts, integrated financial statements, embedded machine learning, self-service reporting, the list goes on and on. When I want to take things to the next level, I got a couple of moves that never seem to fail. Many of my regulars are accustomed to experiencing multiple what-if scenarios. It's actually been a pretty hot commodity as of late. Planners need to be prepared for COVID and a wide range of scenarios. My other calling card is Office Connect, or Le Office Connect when I'm in Paris. It's plug into Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Let's finance automatically refresh all their numbers with the click of a button. Once they hit that refresh button a few times, they fall heads over their heels. Now, I've been called easy to use, and I have a bit of a reputation for time to value. But really, my fellow planners, is too much EBITDA ever a bad thing? Oh, look at that. Time for me to go catch a flight.
Flight to Paris, huh?
Whew, I don't know, Ellie. Spicy.
It quite is.
Yeah, I to be fair though, I as a recovering user, I can tell that you do get a little weak in the knees when that Office refresh comes through, pushing through the board pack. So, all right, we'll let you cool off a little bit there. And Zach, why don't you introduce us to our second candidate?
Next up, it's Todd with sales planning. Now, Todd admits he's not everybody's cup of tea, but when the circumstances are right, he says he's the kind of tool you'll want to bring home to your CEO and brag about to your execs.
Howdy, folks. Todd from Sales Planning here. Now, I might not have some of the pedigree of an established category like financial planning, but don't let that be the reason that you miss out on true love. What could be more important than sales? Figuring out what revenue we're going to generate. In other words, how much is coming in is often the prerequisite for all the dollars out expense budgeting that we want to do. Additionally, plans for the top line often carry the most risk of any that we make, as we don't directly control what customers are going to do in the same way that we can control how many people we hire, when we hire them, or how much we're going to spend on office supplies. So while Jimmy over there may have the reputation for delivering multiple what if scenarios, the scenarios you run with me are going to be a lot more meaningful, and the ones that you'll want to share with your execs. Now, I'm not the perfect fit for everybody. Some organizations don't think in terms of revenue. Nonprofits, for example, think in terms of grants. And even across for-profit companies, sales can look different. In B2C organizations, I can take the form of sales forecasting or demand planning and lean on machine learning technologies to process those higher volumes of data. I think the ideal match for me is somebody with a field sales model, somebody with a large sales organization that needs to carve up and optimize all those territories, figure out where to place the reps, which accounts to give them, and how to set their quotas. For those organizations, I'm the kind of solution that you want to bring home to your CRO and CEO so they know that you're well taken care of.
Ellie, you got a big field sales team, right?
We do. And this is really tough competition here. It's hard. It's making it hard to pick.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we got your reporting and a potential match with the field sales side. Zach, let's see who our third candidate is. Why don't you introduce us?
And last but not least, we've got Marlon with Workforce Planning. Marlon says he's a people person and thinks your people should be at the center of all your plans.
Hello, Marlon Sims, Workforce Planning at your service. Revenues come and go, but we all know the most important asset in your organization is the one that sets all those budgets, the one that generates all the revenue, and the one that actually does all the work, the people. Planners who neglect that fact are really missing out. Drill into the biggest expense line of any financial plan, and what do you find? People. Worried about sales or which reps will attrit? People. Which ones will outperform? People. And where to find new ones? Again, people. Now, I don't really have a type per se. As with workforce planning, beauty is really in the eye of the beholder. Good matches for me come in all shapes and sizes and depend a large degree on how mature the function is within the organization. I can connect with most organizations on the basics of headcount and cost planning and help HR and finance teams put together and execute plans, as well as save them hours when it comes to reconciling them against actuals. And when planners want to get serious about taking things to the next level, I'm ready to help them model all sorts of resource and capacity plans, whether that's utilization rates and billable hours in people-based businesses, or the demand and supply for skills, or how to set and hit diversity and inclusion targets. If you're a people person, then you're the planner for me.
Wow, Ellie, are you a people person?
We sure are, and we are people here, and yeah, he's hitting some of the marks as far as headcount planning and diversity and inclusion. So I tell you, it's getting really tough there, Tom.
All right, a lot to choose from here. Now I'm excited to announce. This is the point in the show, and we'll hear who Ellie picked in a second, but this is where we hear from our live audience. So go ahead and click on the little chat radio button down in the bottom right corner of your screen, and that should open up a little poll area, and you should be able to go ahead and click on the session. And actually, want to tech check real quick. Clay, are we live with the poll so folks can vote?
We are live with the poll. It pushed out just a few minutes ago.
Okay, we'll give folks a few seconds to vote there, and then how will the results pop up? Like, because I actually I don't see them in my chat window here. All right, folks, go ahead and click an option there. Financial planning, James, Mr. Gartner, upper right, innovation, execution, the reputation. Sales planning with the meaningful scenarios, or workforce planning. Are you a people person? People at the center of everything. All right, Clay, I'm not able to actually see the results. Are you able to just share and disclose the winner, either Zach or Clay?
Let me see what I can do. One sec.
Sure. Go ahead, guys. A lot to think about there, Ellie.
The anticipation, huh?
The moment of truth, I know.
I know I've got my vote. I'm rooting for financial planning with James. Those sunglasses, too cool for school.
I thought it was
Multiple what if
scenarios,
scenarios,
right? Yeah.
How could you not?
You know, I have to say, I think we're having a technical glitch. I myself can't get the poll. I can see it, but I can't click into it. And I pushed it out again.
Oh, all right, folks. Well, Clay, we'll continue with the program, and we'll get into who Ellie decided. And then if you're able to kind of like let us know the results, I think our audience would be interested to see.
Great. We also might be able to use the just ask the moderator feature. If you want to just send out some shout outs or some votes, then we can look at those, and Zach can give us a report out on what it looks like.
To make it easy, we could do either 1, 2, or 3 rather than having to write out names. So 1 would be financial planning with James, 2, sales planning with Todd, or 3, workforce planning with Marlon. 1, 2,
Go ahead and
3.
just write them right into that chat, and we can kind of see it. And we'll actually need to do some Q&A there as well when we get into the nitty gritty. But yeah, go ahead and we'll get a rough pulse. And in the interim, Ellie, why don't you tell us who you picked?
Well, you know, he really had me at the financial planning spectrum of multiple what if scenarios. I don't know. I just couldn't get past that. So, you know, it was an easy win. Yeah. So I had chosen financial planning.
Great, Ellie. And, you know, that's not uncommon. I think a lot of customers, it's obviously the most established category within planning, the forecasting of the core GL, as well as some of the operational planning that hangs off of that. Why don't you talk to us about why, beyond the hair and the charm and the multiple what if scenarios, why you guys started there and then kind of how it went?
Sure. Yeah, so, we started our implementation just weeks before our planning cycle. So that had resulted in our decision to take a phased approach and really identifying those, the information that we truly needed to help us with our planning cycle. We were able to complete our first phase within our first 10 weeks. So, James does not fail in what he promises. And we were able to stand up our P&L, our revenue, headcount, and expense forecast. We were also able to add in a couple extra schedules that were previously managed in our other relationship with Excel of CapEx and cash flow. And all of this was all completed in a multi-currency environment.
Mm-hmm. So Office Connect is a real thing then, huh?
It is. It definitely provides a whole lot of capabilities and flexibilities for us to help us recognize and realize some of the hard savings leading into our second phase is where we had implemented a lot of our reporting. Our planners were able to easily adopt the use of the matrix and matrix reporting as well as dashboarding and Office Connect. We were able to roll out our operating cash flow and balance sheet, bringing us to a three-statement model, as well as additional integrations with our general ledger with our out-of-the-box connectors.
That's awesome. Ellie, why don't you talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned the sort of hard savings and then kind of the softer stuff. Do you want to start there just in terms of the raw efficiencies and what that accomplished for the team?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, as we've been talking about this, really the overall self-service reporting capabilities, it was the biggest differentiator for us from Anaplan. We've been able to realize measurable savings of up to 50%, allowing our planners more time to analyze and observe the data, to provide the necessary details to drive the key business decisions. And cutting our time to create our board pack by half, and that was a huge savings.
And then you want to talk a little bit, because it starts with just the raw, hey, I can do my job faster. But then can you talk a little bit about the impact that has on the organization? And particularly Workday's no exception. We were facing an uncertain world just like everybody else out there, and their ability to walk a difficult line and make decisions. Can you talk a little bit about the importance there?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, the ability for us to create ad hoc versions and scenarios and dynamic modeling without having to establish a set cadence. All the what if scenarios really helped us understand, understand the details that we needed to navigate through tough decisions around our overall personnel, cash flow, top line growth. Prime example, as you mentioned, in our uncertain times, we were able to quickly mobilize spot decisions on giving our staff globally bonuses during the start of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, listen, we've tallied up the results there, and it looks like we've got actually Workforce Planning Marlin, maybe a little recency bias, edged out James for the win. There were a whole bunch of votes for all three, but Marlin the slight edge. And I think that's interesting, as a lot of the workforce planning and people planning elements are often also a very big part of any core financial model that hinges on personnel and salary expense. Obviously, typically the biggest line item in any income statement, as Marlon pointed out. So kind of no surprise there. Well, listen, this is the portion of the show where ordinarily we would, and it sounds like you may be interested in a second date, Ellie, but we would offer to sort of pick up the tab. But we have a little bit of a wrinkle, and for our audience out there, it sounds like Ellie, you've been doing a bit of moonlighting. Do you want to talk to us about some of your extracurriculars with not only Todd but also Marlon?
Yeah, and I think it's good to see that we're right in line with the audience there, right? Why not take advantage of all the capabilities and settle? Well, I'm a girl. We want it all. So, but in all seriousness, sales and workforce are two hugely important areas for us as well. And our sales ops teams definitely had a lot to gain with the ability that Adaptive had provided us. We were able to retire 130 Excel workbooks, or really translating to upwards of 400 spreadsheets that we previously utilized to support our forecasting cycle. So we've been able to gain some great efficiencies with our account assignment cycle, and really allowing us that time to be a little bit more thoughtful about, or more thoughtful rather, as far as how we make our assignments, who do we assign it to, and why, based upon the data that's provided to us. And at the same time, also providing the transparency in a centralized source of truth across 100+ sales directors and
mm-hmm.
finance.
Mm-hmm. And on the workforce side, talk to me a little bit about what you guys have done there, both the portion that sits and lives also, kind of a an overlap with the financial planning exercise as well as some of the diversity inclusion.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as we've been mentioning, right, biggest focus has been headcount and having our finance and HR and talent acquisitions team to have the ability to collaborate and plan and managing the headcount. It's really been able, we've been able to leverage that to improve our ability to be nimble in making those hiring decisions with insights into information that we need to understand where our successful reps or talent pools, as an example, come from, to really help us enable changes that we need to put in place to ensure that we're hitting our hiring targets. And then along with our D&I model, that's something that's also really helped us set overall long-term targets to help our organizations across the company to monitor their overall progress on
targets.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
well, listen, it sounds like you kind of got your cake and got to eat it too. So I want to leave a few takeaways for folks there. Just, first and foremost, the importance of agility and continuous planning in a dynamic environment. That drive towards company-wide planning, as we can see from our audience selections, as well as Ellie's own, extracurriculars and endeavors, it gets way past just forecasting strictly, a core GL chart of accounts. And lastly, some of the phasing and evolution that goes along with that in terms of where you start and then how you tackle different planning problems around the organization. And Ellie, it sounds like you're off to the best in terms of the center of excellence and a real focus on that across the organization. Well, we have a couple of minutes for Q&A, and I'll start with one that popped up in here that I particularly like. What's next, Ellie? So you chewed through James and Todd and Marlon. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, so what's on our horizon for us is really further extending out our workforce planning, as well as extending our sales planning as well, and really being able to take advantage of the operational aspect of adaptive planning as well, to be able to implement forecasting across our various different departments within the organization.
Got it. And as you have done multiple, not only multiple what if scenarios, but multiple planning deployments, any sort of determinant of success or something that you would have done differently, maybe a common thread across some of these diverse use cases?
Yeah, I would say, ensuring that we have the data, and it's not just having the data available, it's really ensuring the integrity of the overall data. Centralizing the source of truth is very important. And then really ensuring that we're laying on that governance as well, so that, we're not, running in an environment with multiple disparate models that doesn't have any threads that to connect it back to our corporate finance plans ultimately.
All right. Well, wise words from the girl who's seen it all, I guess. Listen, folks, we're getting towards the top of the hour here, or actually the half hour, which is our mark. With that, I want to thank you all for your time. Hope you had a little fun today and even managed to pick up a few tips that you can apply to your own romantic endeavors and planning pursuits. And I hope you guys tune in next week, where we've got more planners trying to make a love connection.